My parents begged me to come to a family reunion. I came, and my mom said, "We're going on vacation as a family. Take care of the dog." The room exploded with laughter. My uncle added, "It's important for the family." I just nodded. 2 days later, they tried to withdraw $4,000 from my card, but I refused. Then my dad wrote, "Be serious." I smiled and sent 50 cents with the note. "I am not a family." Then I received 53 messages in about 2 hours until They begged me to come. I hadn't heard from my dad in 2 months, and out of nowhere he calls and says, "We're having a family meeting. It'd mean a lot if you were there." My mom sent one of her long texts that always ends with something like, "We're still a family, Kevin." Then Laura messaged me privately, just, "Please, Kev. Just come." When they all team up like that, it usually means something went very wrong. My first thought was that someone died. Or was dying. Or got arrested. I even double-checked Uncle Rick's name on Google because he's always involved in something he shouldn't be. So I show up Saturday night. Same house, same living room where I grew up. I open the door and they're all there. Mom, Dad, Laura, Rick, Grandma, even Madison. Someone had actually lit candles and put out snacks. It looked like a birthday party. No one looked sad or panicked. Just excited. I sit down. The room quiets. My mom stands up, with that grin she gets when she thinks she's about to be clever. And she says it like it's this huge announcement. "We're going on vacation as a family. Take care of the dog." Then they all start laughing. Like actually laughing. Laura's already scrolling on her phone again. Rick's cracking a beer. My dad points at the dog and says something like, "Well, someone has to stay behind, might as well be you." Uncle Rick adds, "It's important for the family." I nodded. I didn't say anything. That's always been my role. Show up. Nod. Do the thing no one else wants to do. They call it being the reliable one. What it really means is they count on me to clean up after their choices, to fix what breaks, and to stay quiet while doing it. What they didn't know was that 2 days later, I got a fraud alert. Someone tried to use my card to book a $4,000 vacation package to Tulum. Under my name. With my billing address. I canceled the charge, obviously. An hour later, my dad texted, "Be serious." I sent him 50 cents on Venmo. The note said, "I'm not family." That's when it started. 53 messages in 2 hours. Laura accused me of overreacting. My mom said I was being dramatic. Madison said, "It was just a joke, don't be so sensitive." Rick sent a thumbs down emoji. Grandma texted, "Really, Kevin?" Which stung more than I expected. They blew up like I'd set fire to the house. All because I wouldn't let them steal from me. I didn't respond. I turned my phone over, watched the screen light up again and again while the dog I was now apparently the guardian of snored under the kitchen table. His name's Max. He's the only one who seemed genuinely happy I was there. And while they were all busy packing, buying swimsuits, booking excursions and choosing matching Instagram captions, I started to go through my old emails. Receipts. Debt notices. Loan co-signing confirmations I forgot I'd signed at some point. Notes I'd written to myself about who owed what. There were a lot more than I remembered. They thought they were the ones holding it all together. They thought I was just the background character. They never realized the only reason any of them were still standing was because I never let them fall. But I was done being the joke. I didn't sleep that night. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just still. I sat at my kitchen table with a black coffee, no cream, no sugar, just the way I drank it back when I used to pull overnight shifts. The dog, Max, paced a bit, then settled under the table near my feet. He didn't ask questions. Didn't tell me to lighten up or be serious. He just lay there. By 3 a.m., I was staring at a spreadsheet. Column A was for names. Column B, the amount. Column C, what it was supposedly for. I called it family accounting. I had never written it all out before. It was easier not to. There was the $2,400 I sent to Laura when she thought her car was going to be repossessed. The $8,000 loan I signed for when Uncle Rick's investment fund hit a rough patch. He swore it would bounce back in 6 months. That was 3 years ago. Then there were the monthly payments I made on the roof loan. Quietly. Regularly. My parents never asked how it got resolved. They just figured it sorted itself out. The total climbed higher than I expected. North of $40,000. I scrolled through old texts. I found one from last year where Madison had asked if she could, temporarily, use my address for a job application. I said yes. Then I found out months later she listed me as a reference on a rental agreement for an apartment she never paid rent on. I closed the spreadsheet and stared at the wall for a while. I wasn't surprised. I was just tired. Tired of being useful and invisible at the same time. The next morning, they were already posting photos from the airport. Dad had his golf bag in hand. Mom was doing that thing where she leans over everyone for selfies. They wore matching t-shirts that said, "Family mode on." I actually laughed. Quietly. To myself. At 3:20 p.m. Friday, I got a call from a Phoenix number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then an email hit my inbox. The subject line said, "Urgent, loan verification, immediate action required." It was from someone named Anna, from a bank I'd never dealt with personally. I opened it. They were confirming a $25,000 personal loan issued under my name. Full name. Social Security. My work email, which I had never once used for personal matters. Funds were already transferred. To a new account. In my name. At the same bank branch my dad uses. Opened 3 weeks ago. I froze. I called the fraud department. Spoke to someone named Derek. Told him everything I knew, which wasn't much. While he walked me through the process of freezing the account, I could already see where this was going. Someone had used my information. Someone who knew what they were doing. Someone who had access. I didn't need to guess long. I texted my dad. "You took a loan in my name?" No reply. I waited. Watched the typing bubble flicker then disappear. 6 hours passed. Then a call. His name lit up the screen. I let it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then silence. At 9:47 p.m., a text. "We'll talk when I get back. Don't overreact." Overreact. It hit different this time. Like everything I'd swallowed for years just moved an inch closer to the edge. I went back to my spreadsheet. But now, I opened a new tab. And I titled it, "What They Owe Me." Because they weren't just taking money anymore. They were taking me. And this time, I wasn't going to be quiet about it. By the time they landed in Cancun, I'd already filed the fraud report. I also had a consultation booked with a lawyer I found through a friend at work, someone who specialized in family fraud cases. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post online. I didn't vent. I just fed Max, went to work, came home, and kept adding to my tabs. They started sending photos almost immediately. Group shots at the beach, drinks in hand, sunset selfies. I wasn't tagged in any of them, but I saw them through Laura's stories. One had the caption, "Finally, peace and quiet beach with umbrella." I almost screenshotted it, but didn't. It wasn't worth the memory space. On Monday, I got a call from the lawyer, Jasmine. She'd reviewed the documents and confirmed it. The account had been set up using real ID data, and because I hadn't authorized it, I had a strong case. What she said next stuck with me. "This doesn't usually happen out of nowhere. Someone's been using you for a while, Kevin." I already knew. I just hadn't said it out loud. That night, I walked Max around the block. He stopped to bark at a squirrel, and I just stood there, holding the leash, thinking about how stupid I'd been. Not for helping them, but for thinking they saw it. They never did. They only noticed me when they needed something. They never asked why I didn't come on vacations, or why I always had work when big plans came up. They thought I liked staying behind. They thought I was boring. Or maybe they didn't think anything at all. Tuesday morning, Rick texted me, "Hey bud, can you check the mail for a package? Might be something from Maddie." I didn't respond. Wednesday, Laura wrote, "Dad says he can't log into the online banking. He thinks the password reset went to your number?" Still no reply. They were cracking at the edges already, but I stayed silent. Not out of malice. Just because I didn't owe them answers. Thursday, they posted a group photo at some expensive restaurant with those drinks served in pineapples. The caption was, "Family means everything pineapple red heart." That one I did screenshot. Just for me. That night I got another text from my dad. "Need to talk. Call me." I didn't. Instead I sent him a message. You opened a fraudulent account under my name. There's a lawyer handling it now. You'll be contacted soon. The typing bubble appeared, then disappeared. Then nothing. The next morning, I woke up to 19 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and 3 emails. One from Laura, one from my mom, and one from someone named Jennifer who I vaguely remembered was Rick's new girlfriend. Each one had a different tone, but the message was the same. I was ruining the vacation. That's when I realized they still didn't get it. They thought this was about the money. They didn't understand it was about everything else. The years of being the fallback. The default. The guy who always showed up when no one else did. Max barked at a jogger that morning and I laughed. First time in days. Because while they were sipping cocktails and arguing in hotel rooms about who messed up what login, I was here, doing exactly what they asked. Watching the dog. And making sure they finally saw what happens when the background character stops playing along. By Friday, the messages slowed down. I figured they were either too drunk to argue or too proud to admit how bad things had gotten. I stopped watching their stories. I didn't need to anymore. I could feel the unraveling from here. Saturday morning, I got a string of voicemails from Laura. She skipped the pleasantries. Just went right in. Did you really report Dad to the bank? I said yes. Calmly. She went quiet for half a second, then tried to spin it. It's family stuff. You don't involve lawyers in family stuff. I asked her one question. Did you know about the account? She hung up. No one else called after that. They switched to indirect communication, screenshots, secondhand guilt. Madison messaged. They're freaking out. Can you just pause whatever you did? Rick, who hadn't spoken to me directly in years unless he needed something, texted. You're blowing this out of proportion. Real men handle things face to face. My mom sent a photo. A blurry sunset with the caption. We just wanted a peaceful break. None of them said sorry. Meanwhile, Jasmine, the lawyer, kept moving. The funds were frozen. The bank opened a fraud investigation. I got assigned a case number. She said, This is going to be big, Kevin. Do you want to press charges? I told her not yet. I wasn't after a courtroom. Not unless they forced it. What I wanted was for them to sit with it. To feel the weight of what they'd done without someone softening the impact. No one to cover the bill, or explain it away or quietly fix the mess. Tuesday morning, a number I didn't recognize sent me a screenshot, cancellation confirmed, for nights early. No message. Just the proof. The itinerary was breaking. 10 minutes later, Laura texted, We're coming home. Everyone's fighting. Thanks for that. I stared at it for a moment, then put my phone back down. The next day, I knew they landed because Madison posted one of those black screens with, Back. Exhausted. Don't ask. That was followed by a flurry of silence. Then the doorbell rang. It was all of them. My dad in his old windbreaker, Laura in flip-flops and sunglasses still on her head, Rick carrying a bottle of duty-free tequila like it was a peace offering. My mom was the last one to look up at me. I opened the door. Max barked once and then went to sit by the couch. They came in slowly, like they weren't sure they were allowed. Laura started in with something about misunderstandings and stress and how Dad thought it was just a temporary account. Rick muttered something about overreaction. My mom did most of the talking, like always. Finally, my dad said, It got out of hand. I looked at all of them, then looked down at Max, who dropped a squeaky toy near my foot and sat like a statue. I said, I was just looking after the dog. No yelling. No speech. I wasn't going to hand them a path back. They'd find their own way if they cared to. They stood there for a bit longer. Then one by one, they walked out. No goodbyes. Just silence, doors shutting behind them. And when they were gone, I sat on the floor next to Max and scratched behind his ears while he chewed that squeaky duck like nothing ever changed. Because for once, it hadn't been me who broke. It was them. The silence after they walked out didn't feel like relief. It felt like someone turned off the engine of a car that had been running too long, still warm, still ticking, but finally quiet. And in that quiet, everything got louder. Not their voices, but the stuff they never said. The years of casual asking, the running tabs, the way they never asked how I was unless it circled back to something they needed. I thought they'd stay distant for a while. Take their embarrassment, and roll it into some vague family myth they could bring up years later. Remember when Kevin got all dramatic over that one thing? Instead, the next move came fast. 2 days later, I got a call from the bank. Formal tone, very polite. They needed my written statement to confirm I hadn't opened the loan account. I sent them everything, screenshots, the credit report, the lawyer's contact info, the timestamps. Everything was dated, documented, airtight. An hour after that, Rick texted me. "You really went through with it?" No apology. No. "We're sorry." Just those 6 words. Like he still couldn't believe I'd stepped out of the role they'd cast me in. I didn't reply. Then came the pivot. They tried to reach me through side channels. My cousin Dan messaged me out of nowhere, said he was in the neighborhood, wanted to grab a drink. We hadn't spoken in over a year. Not since he borrowed $600 for a temporary setback, and ghosted me for 7 months. I told him Max doesn't do well with visitors and stayed home. On Thursday, a cardboard box showed up on my doorstep. No return address, no message. Inside was a framed photo from some vacation we took when I was 12. Myrtle Beach, maybe? My dad in cargo shorts, Laura doing bunny ears behind Madison, and me standing off to the side, holding a bag that clearly wasn't mine. Even then, I didn't throw it out. I put it in the drawer with the rest of the papers. By the weekend, I got a call from Jasmine. She said the fraud report triggered a review. Turns out the loan wasn't the only red flag. There were other inquiries on my credit. One from a dealership in Florida, another from a shady payday loan company, both using my name, my social, same address. Denied, but still there. She paused before asking, "Are you sure this only started recently?" I wasn't. I'd stopped checking. I'd stopped expecting anything better a long time ago. That night I sat down and pulled every credit report I could get. I went back 2 years. Then 4. I built a timeline. Cross-referenced holidays, emergencies, sudden favors they'd asked. And the pattern formed. They weren't just messy. They were strategic. They used my name when they needed leverage, then forgot it was mine. Used my credit, my silence, my sense of duty, and let it blend into the background like furniture. And now that I'd moved, even a little, the entire room shifted. Monday morning, I got a new message. Laura again. "Can we talk?" "Not about the money. Just us. I miss you." I stared at it for a while. She was the closest thing I had to someone who used to get it. But even she stopped asking questions when it was convenient. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I opened a new document. Not for them. For me. It was called, "What They Think I Forgot." And I wrote it down. Every time I paid the late fee and didn't tell them. Every time I talked a debt collector out of escalating things. Every time I let someone else believe they had it all together when I was the one dragging the weight behind them. They thought I was petty now. They thought this was about revenge. But I wasn't trying to hurt them. I was just done letting them hurt me. And this silence, they thought it was punishment. But it was the sound of me stepping out of the shadows they built around me. Finally, they were starting to see it. They just didn't know yet. They weren't coming home to the same version of me. By the end of that week, I realized they weren't going to apologize. Not really. They might say the words eventually, or something close enough to resemble them, but not because they meant it. They'd do it because things got uncomfortable. Because I wasn't folding back into place like they expected. Laura texted again. This time, just one line. "Do you hate us now?" I didn't know how to answer that. It wasn't hate. It was something colder, quieter. Not wanting anything from them anymore. I never replied. Then Madison actually emailed, asking if I'd removed her from the family Netflix account. I had. Not out of pettiness. Just because it was time. One small piece at a time, I was pulling myself out of the web I'd let them wrap me in. The calls stopped. The messages thinned. They weren't used to being ignored. I think they thought the silence would snap eventually, that I'd get tired and come back around. They didn't understand that I'd never been louder than I was now. Then one morning, around 2 weeks after they'd come home, I walked out to find another box on my doorstep. Smaller this time. No note. Inside was a set of keys, my old house key, the one I'd given my parents years ago so they could check on things. Just in case. Along with it, a folded envelope. Empty. I stood there for a while, Max sniffing the box like it might contain treats. Then I took the keys and tossed them in the drawer with the old vacation photo. They'd given them back, but not in a way that meant anything. No note. No admission. Just dropped it off like returning library books. A few nights later, Jasmine called. The investigation was closing in. The bank had everything they needed. Charges were possible now. She asked again if I wanted to pursue it. I told her no. I'd already won. Because it wasn't about courtrooms or payback. It was about the space I'd built around myself now. Clear, firm, unshakable. A space where no one borrowed without asking. Where guilt didn't come gift-wrapped in family language. Where I could hear myself think. Max barked at something outside and ran to the door. I followed, looked out the window, and saw Rick's car down the street. Just sitting there. He didn't come up. Didn't knock. Just waited for a few minutes, then drove off. That was how it would be from now on. No confrontations. No big reckoning. Just slow, quiet unraveling. They'd go on with their lives, telling their version of things. Maybe someday I'd become the story of how Kevin overreacted. How he changed. How they tried, and I pushed them away. And that was fine. Because they'd never know the whole of it. They'd never understand what it took to hold them all up for years, the weight of every hidden crisis, every favor they forgot to remember. They'd never really see who I was. But now I did. I scratched Max behind the ears and sat down on the floor next to him. They broke the family, and blamed me for letting go. All I did was finally say no. And sometimes, the loudest revenge is just silence they have to live with. New update. 3 weeks passed with no contact. Not a text, not a missed call. It was the longest silence I'd ever had from them, and it should have felt peaceful. It almost did. Until the first knock. It came on a Tuesday morning. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee, Max asleep under the table. The knock wasn't frantic. Just firm. I opened the door and saw a man in a navy suit holding a folder. He introduced himself as an investigator working on behalf of the bank. "I just have a few follow-up questions, Mr. Myers," he said. I let him in. We sat at the table while Max circled his legs. The man opened the folder, laid out a few documents, and pointed to a highlighted section. Turns out, the loan in my name wasn't the only one. There were 2 more. One tied to a fake LLC, Kevin Myers Holdings, registered 6 months ago. The second, a small business loan applied for online, denied because someone entered the wrong employment history. Both under my identity. "Whoever did this," he said, "they didn't just make a mistake. They planned it." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. He left after 10 minutes, said someone from the DA's office might reach out next. As I shut the door, I felt it for the first time, not sadness, not betrayal. Just exposure. Like a wound that finally got sunlight after being covered too long. Then came the second knock. Thursday night. Around 8 p.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. Max barked twice, then went still. It was Laura. She looked like she hadn't slept. No makeup, hair tied back, hoodie over her shoulders like armor. She asked if she could come in. I didn't answer. I just stepped aside. She sat down at the table without waiting. Same chair the investigator had used 2 days earlier. She took a breath. "It wasn't just Dad," she said. "I knew. About the account. I didn't know it would go that far, but I didn't stop it." She stared at the table when she said it. I waited. "There's something else," she added. "Grandma took out a credit card 2 years ago. Used your name. Mom said you wouldn't notice." I closed my eyes for a second. She kept going. "I didn't come to explain. Or fix it. I just thought you should know." And that was the only moment she looked at me directly. "I think you were the only adult in the whole family, Kevin. And we all used that." Then she left. No hug. No apology. No cleanup. Just the truth, dropped like broken glass on the table, and walked out the door. And this time, I didn't feel anything shatter. I just swept it up.